Welcome to the Databricks Skill Builder series. We're glad you're here.
Hopefully that works for you all. Stephanie, does it?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right, perfect. All right. Happy New Year, everybody, and thank you for taking the time to attend today's customer skill building call. Today, I'm going to be talking about Databricks workflows, which is the reliable orchestration for data analytics and AI. I'm Samaya Madhavan, and I'm a solutions architect here with Databricks. So in today's session, just to give you an overview and a sense of what today's topics are going to be, we're going to be starting with giving you an introduction to Databricks workflows, followed by discussing some of the key features of Databricks workflows. Followed by that, I'll be doing a short demo showing you firsthand as to how you can build a production grade workflow. And then stop to see if there's any questions. Also, in the meanwhile, if you have any questions while I'm giving you the presentations, feel free to drop that in chat, and we'll have Stephanie help answering those. So herein we have the Databricks lakehouse platform diagram. I'm pretty sure you've come across this more than once. In today's call, I'm going to be focusing on the data engineering parts of the platform, and more specifically about Databricks workflows and how Databricks workflows helps you in orchestrating and managing end-to-end production pipelines. So to discuss briefly about what today's current problem is when it comes to organizations trying to adapt orchestration for their platform or the major bottleneck that they face is first off, data teams are spending too much time to stitch these pipelines tasks, and having to manually manage and monitor these orchestration process is a hassle. And we also see that there's heavy reliance on external or cloud-specific orchestration solutions, and all of these, just slow down the current, the delivery rate for your new data that comes in. So in the session, I'll introduce to you Databricks Workflows, which is a fully managed orchestration service for your data analytics and BI needs. That is built on the Lakehouse platform. So within Databricks, we have workflows. We have two different features, which is Delta Live tables that helps you to build end-to-end pipeline in a managed way, and also Databricks workflows jobs, which is what I'll be majorly focusing on this session. And we do have a futuristic session where we'll be talking about Delta Live tables in detail. So workflows, as we probably already know, is nothing new to Databricks. It's been around for a while now. Just as we saw in the previous slide, Databricks workflows comprises of jobs and Delta Live tables, and it's been launching more than 10 million VMs from any single requester on at least one large cloud platform. And what this has provided us as is a lot of experience in handling, and seeing a lot of failures. And we've kind of learned it the hard way. And we've kind of, fine-tuned our solution to shield our customers from what we have learned in this habit. On this slide over here, I'd like to kind of, break some of the myths about what customers think around Databricks workflows. The customers tend to think that Databricks workflows is just predominantly meant for Spark workloads. In many cases, you just think that only Spark tasks can be used to execute these workflows, which is not entirely true. 30% of the workloads that we faced, handle are non-Spark based workloads. It can be used to orchestrate any tasks of any of these types, as it's mentioned over here, and it could be notebooks, your ML models, DBT, and the list goes on. And I'll be showing it to you in detail as we move forward. Even if you want to execute any arbitrary code or anything that will have to use an API to get your individual tasks running, you can use workflows. and about 10% of the executions are using single node clusters to for example send an email to kind of know how the data ingestion went, or for example if you want to use workflows to ping another API or just do file operations per se. Here's an example of the workflow DAG, which is the direct acyclic graph of how the workflow is built, and it contains of several steps. And it's like on a high level over here, showed in green boxes over here. To begin with, we'll typically start with the data ingestion funnel. And if you think about any use cases, you are beginning to trying to absorb data from several sources, which is what is like pictured in this example over here. So you in this example over here, it is shown that you get clicks ingestion done, and also orders ingestion done. So the assumption over here is we are looking at a retail use case. And we typically use tools like autoloader or delta life tables to do ingestion, which is supported by workflows. But we also are able to bind your ingestion from any other external tools as well. And then as we move on for data filtering, quality assurance, and transformation purposes, you could use DLT, SQL, or Python type tasks. And if for example, a data analyst is familiar or is comfortable with any external tool, for example, let's say DBT, Workflows also has compatibility with DBT to support it. And then with workflows, you're able to take this pipeline forward. And for example, if you have to do like feature extraction and build this pipeline to do data science and machine learning to take it forward, workflows is able to orchestrate that and execute the code in automated fashion as well. So we've established that workflows is not new. We do currently have more than 7,000 customers. And if you look at this diagram over here, we have like, a few big brands with, large data volumes that are currently using workflows. And it's a testament to show how, fault proof the solution is. Next, I'm going to discuss, 5 reasons why customers like to use Databricks workflows, and hopefully that will, kind of resonate with the problems that you are currently dealing with as well. So to kind of stick to our, our original motto is, Databricks workflows is a fully managed lakehouse orchestration service for analysts, data engineers, administrators to build reliable data analytics and AI workloads on any cloud. First off is Databricks Workflows helps you to orchestrate anything, anywhere, which means that if, for example, you have a SQL workload that needs to be orchestrated, and it has to be combined with another Python notebook or like a wheel file or a Java jar file, and also, for example, data life tables, like I mentioned, DBT projects, all of these can be orchestrated together using Databricks workflows. And also, this can be executed across any of the clouds. And you'll see that bigger organizations tend to have more than one cloud, so this is easier to be applied across clouds as well. Next one is, simple workflow authoring. It is super easy for you to create these workflows with an intuitive UI. The UI is being constantly also being like enhanced as we speak. You can also create the workflows via API or CLI as well to support any CI/CD tools. If you think about a typical organization, you'll have several personas like a data analyst or a data engineer, data scientist, and so on. And if every time a data analyst will have to wait for a data engineer to build these pipelines, it is going to be a bottleneck for this data analyst to get the workflows be like orchestrated. With a simple UI like this, a data analyst wouldn't have the need to be dependent on a data engineer to build production grade workflows. Next is workflows is deeply integrated within the platform. So now users don't have to switch between, tools back and forth. Uh, Also, what this enables is you are able to capture more information about the run, and you get the same great security and um, across any clusters that you use. So yeah, next off is discussing about proven reliability. We've been proven that we have 99.9% reliability, and that kind of plays same as Azure Data Factory, and we oftentimes beat them by a significant margin as well. So Databricks workflows, as we spoke before, we launch millions of machines per day across, several cloud, and we've been improving any underlying service for years. So it's now given us a ground to be battle tested, and it's shielding, your critical workloads. If you think about our competitions like Airflow, you will need significant infrastructure team to be working to keep these pipelines be up and running when you orchestrate your tasks, which is not very fault proofed. So but with Databricks, all you have to do is, you don't need any infrastructure teams, and Databricks Workflows is a fully managed service. Therefore, you're integrated with the platform, and you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure or the software that needs for you to get this going. I'll now unpack each of these in detail to get a sense of how we can relate it to Databricks Workflows firsthand. So we initially saw a DAG, which represents each of these tasks that we saw. And each of these tasks can be, like I said, any non-Spark tasks. So we recently even added a non-Spark DB SQL, task. With that, you could add queries or dashboards as well as part of these workflows. Pretty soon, we are also going to be including Databricks workflows as an option within the SQL persona as well. We also discussed about DBT, which is popular amongst analysts, and you can, orchestrate DBT on Databricks using CLI, just similar to how you would do it on a local machine if you were to use DBT. And many customers are also on many cloud and, Databricks workflows. With that, you don't have to retrain a data analyst if an organization decides to move from one cloud to another. You don't have to retrain your analyst, and you can smoothly operate it across many clouds. We've also integrated with partners like Fivetran and have tools like Autoloader and DLT to support with ingestion as well. So this slide, shows you an example of what would be the typical scenarios under which you would have to start using workflows. So for example, your use case is you have to run jobs in sequence. You have small steps that needs to be either run on a sequentially and also on a specific schedule. So for example, if you have a task that has to be run every 2 hours, and this has to follow the ingestion followed by any ETL steps, then you would use Databricks workflows. If you again want to use ingestion and then apply transformation, you'd use Databricks workflows. And like I initially mentioned, Databricks workflows has two different key features. One of it is Delta Live tables, and the other one is jobs. So to do ETL, our opinionated, best practice is to use Delta Live tables. And Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in 3 weeks from now, we are covering a session on Delta Live tables as part of this webinar.
Yes, we definitely have some Delta Live tables coming up.
Perfect. Also, if you have any machine learning use cases and you want to execute these model training or model inference notebooks as a job, if you want to do predictions at 5 p.m. every day, or you want to retrain your model if you sense drift in your data by 2%, you could use workflows to set this up to orchestrate your machine learning model. Um, if you have any arbitrary code, for example, any like APIs that needs to be invoked, you could build a workflow with a combination of using any Python notebook or jars or wheels, and like the list that's mentioned in the slide over here. We spoke about how the UI is built very simple. It's very intuitive, and I'll show you a demo followed by followed by the next few slides where you can just follow along to see how this UI is being built. The UI is also currently being enhanced to drag and drop, so that is coming up in the near future as well. So with this simple workflow authoring, like I mentioned, you're not dependent on your data engineer to build production level orchestrations. You could, as a data analyst, build these pipelines and get them going as well. So deep platform integration, with using Databricks workflows, which is built within, the lakehouse platform, you now do not need to switch between tools. You are able to, have specialized tasks that can be orchestrated together. And because you're doing it on the same platform, you're able to emit more information about a run, and with that, your monitoring is enhanced, and this makes your tasks run fault proof. And if in case your task executions errors, it's easier for you to get it up and running with this platform integration that we have. So Databricks Workflows is open to any orchestrator. So we briefly spoke about the differences between Azure Data Factory and Airflow. But if in your organization you are currently using any of these tools, you're still able to integrate these individual tasks into the platform by using Databricks Workflows using the Jobs API. And then you're able to monitor your UI for the runs and history and such. A few key differentiator between why you choose Azure Data Factory or why you choose Databricks over Azure Data Factory is Azure Data Factory is functional only on the Azure cloud. And so now you have a cloud lock in, and if your organization decides to move clouds, you're now not able to do that with Data Factory. And Airflow, like I previously mentioned, there is a lot of significant effort that needs to happen for building and maintaining or upgrading your versions of the orchestrated flow. But with Databricks, you have a fully managed service, and you have an easy to use UI. So now you don't have to depend on your data engineers to get this built like how you would typically in Airflow. So pro and reliability, we spoke about how we are able to get this running and be available 99.95% of the times. So that gives customer confidence that the service is reliable. Fully managed, we spoke about how you can also you wouldn't have the requirement to have infrastructure teams to set up the hardware and maintain your softwares to get this pipeline be built from end to end, because Databricks Workflows is a fully managed service. Let's now discuss a few key features using screenshots over here. The first thing is you're able to create jobs with multiple tasks. Here's a view of the drop down that comprises of all the different tasks that are supported, and the list is just continuously being added. So Databricks SQL or DBT is all publicly available now. So you can pick any of these types to be built, and once you have a task that you've built, you can now add a new task within this jobs, which you can set up dependencies. So you can determine it to run like task one before it executes task two, and such. So cluster reuse is one of the very popular features of Databricks workflows, which is kind of a key differentiator between ADF and Airflows that we previously spoke about. Is you're able to select a cluster that's already in use by another task and reuse that for a futuristic task. And the key advantage of doing this is that if you don't have to wait for a cluster to get started for every new task to be executed. The cluster start and the cluster termination only happens for the first task and the last task in the entire sequence. So that saves you time, and you have your cluster up and running already. So it'll give you faster execution. Repair and rerun is also a feature that we'll see as we look through the demo. So with repair and run, if you look at the example above, you see that while applying ETL transformation, your bronze level has succeeded, but your silver level has not succeeded, which is marked by a red. And because the basic task has failed, the tasks that depend on the silver tasks have been paused from being executed. So with repair and run, you wouldn't have to run your your orchestration from scratch each time. Because bronze is executed successfully, you're able to skip it and run the silver and gold and going forward. And while you run rerun these non-complete tasks, you're able to override default settings, and you're also able to show the rerun history as to how it's initially failed, but then it's been fixed after. So you get a list of the runs. We mentioned about the full API support for multiple tasks. So here's a sample JSON that you would use to submit request to execute your workflow. Over here, you see that you have a task array where you can mention more than one task that needs to be executed, and you can mention dependencies, cluster details, and such as part of this JSON for it to be executed as well. So we also spoke about how you can, integrate your currently existing Azure Data Factory and Airflow based, workflows into using Databricks workflows by using the APIs that we have. So here's a sample like JSON that you would use. Or you can, if you have your own orchestrator that you've built, you can integrate that using the Jobs API as well. We briefly talk about monitoring and observability challenges. So we have a special tab within workflows that will enable you to visually watch how these tasks and runs are progressing. So we've observed from our customers about specific challenges. So for example, a customer mentions that it's difficult to manage jobs across multiple workspaces, or if you want to know how many jobs we are currently running, or if you want to know how long has it taken for a job to get executed. For to handle all these different type of problems or challenges, we have workflows helps us by providing monitoring and observability features. So job runs list is one of those examples where you get a list or you have a view of what different jobs have been executed, whether it was launched manually or by a scheduler, and how long it took and details like that. And we'll we'll take a closer look at it when we get into the demo as well. We also have a matrix view, and I'll switch tabs to show you when I do the demo, but it shows you on a high level what different job tasks are comprised within this entire job, and how many different runs have happened. Each of these columns over here represent each run. On the top level over here, the green describes that the run was successful, and also the height of it measures the time it's taken for each of these run to execute. The red tabs over here indicate that the job run was a failure, and the ones marked in pink, I want to say, are tasks that were prevented from execution because a previous dependent task of it was observed to be failed. So that's the matrix view. I'm going to switch to the demo, but I'll just pause for a brief second to see if we have any questions that I can answer. Okay. I don't have a view of the chat, so I'm just going to assume that we don't have any questions. Okay. So this tab over here is the Databricks, platform that we have over here, and in here you're able to switch between different personas. So for you to start building a workflow, you typically start by switching to the data science and engineering persona, and initially you just have to make sure that you have a compute that's up and running. So I'm going to turn this compute on. It should take a few seconds for that to turn on, but let me, in the meantime, switch over to show you what the workflows tab looks like. So here's a first look of the workflows tabs. So like we mentioned before, you'll have two main features, which is jobs and Delta Live tables. So Delta Live tables is the managed way of creating end-to-end data pipelines to execute any ETL transformations without having to worry about the underlying infrastructure that needs to be set up. Jobs is where we'll be focusing the most part of the time over here for this demo. So to begin with, I'm going to show you how to create a job. So you'll start by clicking create job, and that opens for you a task view. So for this, you initially begin by giving a name for your job, and it could be customer skill building sample job, right? And then over here, task name, I'm just going to give it as test task 1. Here's the drop down of the different task types that you can select. And here are the different options that you can choose from. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to choose a notebook, and you can set up the workspace sources between workspace or a Git provider, which enables, helps you with any CI/CD integration. You could then move to select the path. And in my case, I'm going to go to the notebook that I have set up over here, which is, initially just creating tables. So I'm going to select that and hit confirm. Over here is your option to select between jobs and all-purpose clusters. So in this case, I'm going to use my all-purpose cluster that I've just created. You could, at this point, also add any parameters that you want that you can, read from within your tasks. If you click open advanced option, is where you'll see options to, send notifications, like, sending emails, or, your retry policy, like how many times do you want for this task to retry, to attempt it to get executed successfully before you would want it to throw a failure. You also set up timeout to kind of, indicate that, once it hits this timeout, I want this task to be considered as a failure. So for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to not build anything over here, change any of the advanced options, and just create. Next, if you want to create a dependent task, so you just create another task by clicking on this button over here, and then I'm just going to call it test task 2, and you select notebook, and again, I'm just going to have it read the notebook I have set up for this demo purposes. And it by default selects the task that was previously created. You could either choose to not have any tasks as dependent, or in this case, I'm going to select this task as a dependent task, and then not choose any advanced option. You're also able to choose more than one task as being dependent uh, for this task to be dependent on. So now I'm going to create this task. And you'll see that this DAG is being visually created at this point. So if you notice over here, I hadn't changed the default shared job cluster that was selected over here. So you see that you have the option to choose more than one compute type for this job run, but you can choose to choose just the same compute cluster for multiple tasks as well within this. And I'll show you another example of how to do that. After this point, you can, if you at this point consider that, your workflow is complete, you can hit run. You can also set up other configurations, like you can set up tags for you to kind of make it, easily searchable. You could set up Git settings to enable any CI/CD integration that you want this jobs to pick up and run on. You could also schedule it. None is, which means that you'll just manually trigger it, and scheduled is to schedule a cron based job for this to run at. We also have an option to have file triggers that is coming up in the near future that will help you to watch for a file arrival and trigger when that file has arrived at a cloud location. You can also set up email notifications to notify if a job has failed or even if it's successful. We do have enhanced webhooks that's being built to kind of send notifications to third-party applications like Slack, for example. So yeah, so this is a sample example of how you would build a workflow. I'm going to switch now and show you a workflow that I've previously built for the purposes of this demo. So if you look at the task tab over here, you'll see that I've built a fairly involved DAG over here in a very similar way that I've built the other DAG. So if I, for example, click over here, I'm able to go to the notebook, and just to show you what is happening behind these notebooks. What I'm doing over here is initially creating 3 tables. I'm considering this to be a retail example. So I'm, I have like a customer, product, and an order table being created. And once that's created, my second notebook over here is just going to, fill it with dummy data for each of these tables that we created. So that's task 2, 3, and 4. And then task 5 is basically trying to do a simple join to get the highest paid customer from the inserts that we have done. So that's an example of how my DAG looks like. So let me just show you a sample run to see what happens in this flow. So once you hit run, you'll see that the run has begun, and you can watch it, observe what is happening with this run in more than one way. You could go to the runs tab within this same jobs, and you'll see the history of that my job has failed the first 3 times that I tried it this morning until I was able to get this to successfully run. And then this run over here is just what I've currently executed. This is indicating that it's currently under progress. The gray ones indicate that it's still not being run. So that's where we are at. And the other way to look at your job runs is basically go to job. And if you look at the job runs, you'll get a list of, the runs that have been done so far. And you'll see that each of these is being manually launched, indicating a few of them indicating that it failed from, what I tested this morning. So if you want to get into see what is happening with this particular run, you click on the entry and then it'll take you to show you where the run is currently progressing. And you see that task one has succeeded. And this in this example over here, I've set it up for this workflow to intentionally fail, just so I can show you how you would recover if your workflow failed in between, how you would analyze your failure and fix it, and you're able to rerun it just from the point that it failed. So it's working on task 5 right now. It's finished task 2, 3, and 4. So just as this executes, do we have any questions, Stephanie? Okay. Okay. So you see that task 5 has failed over here. So I'm going to click on this and show you an example of how to fix it. So this over here indicates the error that has occurred within this notebook for this to fail. So you could, for example, highlight the error and it'll take you to the spot that it's failed. So what I'm going to do is click on edit task over here, and that will open up a tab and, show you, link you to the notebook over here. So I've intentionally, you know, given a typo over here. So it should be customers, I believe. And now what happens is if I go back to this run over here, you're able to say repair run. So which means that, you don't want the first 4 tasks that have successfully executed to run again. So you just execute task 5 and task 6. So I'm just going to say repair run, and it'll start repairing from task 5 and continue with the flow. So you see that, task 5 has succeeded successfully, and then we move on to task 6, and that's completed successfully as well. So that's an example of a run that has successfully completed. And yeah, so we looked at the tasks page over here, and then we could, have the task run over here, switch it to that view, and you're able to filter the start and end times to kind of get a sub list of the runs if you had, like, runs happening on a very regular basis. So we also spoke about how, you can choose different type of clusters over here. So I just wanted to kind of double click on that, and, tell you a little bit more about it. So if I went back to the sample job that I created over here, and let's assume I'm creating another like task over here. Let's call it task 3. So you have 2 different type of clusters that you can choose from, which is the job clusters and your all-purpose clusters. So what these, the job clusters that you get within, workflows helps you to do is it's less expensive to use these automated or job clusters. So, once you've typically, when you are actively developing is when you would use, an all-purpose cluster. But, for the purposes of when you have an application that's ready to go into production, you'd use job clusters, and it's, it's less expensive than your all-purpose clusters. And I'll put you a link of the pricing page over here. So just considering the economy and wanting to do cost savings, you typically choose between job clusters and all-purpose clusters. It's safer to assume that all-purpose clusters are good for you to use when you want to do constant development. But once you've set up everything for it to be automated and ready to go into production, you typically use job clusters per se. So with that, that's everything I wanted to show you all. Wasn't sure if there are any other questions that I can handle. All right, so if there are no other questions, thank you all so much for taking the time today to attend the session. I'll see you all in a future session like this. Thanks, bye.